Hey y'all, I'm Elisa and I am the Scrappy Wife behind scrappywife.com, and today I have a traveler's notebook process video for you. I am still working in my January traveler's notebook, primarily using the Madison kit from Felicity Jane, and I've been having a great time working with this kit and using my Felicity Jane papers to kind of create a cohesive look. And today I'm going to be working with these sweet photos. This is my daughter and I, and then a picture of our shoes after we went on a run together. She made it 3 whole miles, which I think is awesome. So I'm going to document that in my traveler's notebook. I already created these 2 paper pieces. These are from a Silhouette design store file that I purchased and printed out and layered using some of the Felicity Jane paper. So planning on using these cute little canvas shoes in my spread, some journaling cards, some stamps, and possibly some mixed media. So I will put you on fast forward and we will get going. So the first thing I do is kind of play around with the placement of my pictures. Generally, when I have a larger photo, I like to have it down lower on the page. I feel like it is bigger, it weighs more visually, if that makes sense, and it makes more sense to have it at the bottom of the page. So that's a rule I kind of follow. I put some Distress Oxide here on some clear packaging, and then I'm going to use my water brush pen just to add some water to it. This ends up being a lot, and I didn't actually mean for it to be that much, and you can see I'm kind of playing with how I'm going to flip it without getting it everywhere. And I'm creating a diagonal from the top of the page down to the bottom to connect where the 2 pictures are going to go. And I'm picking up little pieces of ink. You can see it's pretty heavy at the top, so I'm able to pick it up and then move it around, and just to create kind of a flow to the page. So I make sure that that is nice and dry. The oxidation process works really well as it dries, and you get kind of a cool effect. I love Distress Oxide inks. They are so fun to play with, and it did not bleed through on the left side because I had a layout on the back that already had an additional cardstock paper right there, and the right side I'll be able to add paper there. So bleed through I'm not worried about. Now I've pulled out Victorian Velvet Distress Oxide. I smushed it onto this plastic, what is a cutting board, and I am adding texture paste, and I'm just mixing it up with a Dina Wakley mixed media tool that I have, making sure it's nice and consistent. Just texture paste dries pretty quickly, so you want to be able to work with it pretty fast. I pull out a stencil that is a Tim Holtz stencil with these beautiful roses, and I'm just going to use my finger because it gives me a lot of control, and I'm putting the texture paste through the stencil. Again, this is a mixed media feel. I like the messiness, and I like the combination of messy mixed media with the super clean lines and just beautifulness of the Felicity Jane papers. I think it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, so I like trying to combine the 2. And you can see when you use the texture paste, you do get some really cool dimension. It tones down that green a little bit. A lot of this does get covered up by the pictures and by those tennis shoe ephemera pieces that I have created, but it's fun to see it peeking out from underneath. Like I said, texture paste does dry pretty fast, but I make sure it's very dry, and I also make sure to go clean off all my tools before I continue because it will harden on any surface that you leave it on. So you can see I'm using those spots to kind of anchor where my photos will be, and then I'm trying to figure out where I want my journaling to go. I am going to use these 2 journaling cards that came as part of the Madison kit and layer them together. I don't do pocket page scrapbooking, which I think these cards are originally intended for, but you can use them in all kinds of ways. I've used them in my Bible journaling. I use them to create journal cards or journal places in my memory keeping. There's lots of ways to use them. So even if pocket pages aren't your thing, don't just automatically throw these out or push them to the side. For instance, this is another card right here that I'm just cutting this circle piece out of. It looks kind of like a pie chart. I'm not really sure what the concept behind it is, but I love the colors, and it'll be a way to bring those colors and have them all in one piece on the page, which is a nice kind of focal point. While I'm still deciding where my journaling is going to go and where I'm going to use that circle piece, I decided to go ahead and adhere down the elements that I am sure about. So that would be the photos and these sneakers. And I'm using that ATG gun that I've had for maybe just over a month now, and I am loving it. I like to use plenty of adhesive in these traveler's notebooks because they are out in the open, there's no page protector, and I want to make sure they kind of stand the test of time. So I use lots of adhesive, and this is going to save me lots of money. It's a good quality adhesive. It's not too difficult to use once you get used to it, and I'm able to use plenty of it. So I have those elements in place. I end up deciding to shift my journaling card down here to the lower left-hand corner of the layout, and I'll use the circle behind it. And then I can kind of hang it off the page, which is always a neat way to incorporate these cards because they are so big. They don't always work well in a traveler's notebook size. So having it hang off the page really works out well, so it's not too full as far as the page goes. Off camera, I took this over to my typewriter and typed in my journaling, and you can see I had a typo where I accidentally pressed the number 6 and then it just got all messed up. So I'm using some 3D little embellishment stickers, these hearts. I covered up my little typo, so no worse for the wear. And then I am going to trim that off, and I'll be able to use the extra piece that I cut off of the journaling card up at the top to add the date to. Now, all I have to do is start adhering a few more elements down on the page. Again, plenty of adhesive so that nothing falls off. I'd be interested to know, so I got a typewriter for Christmas, and I am loving it, but it is not easy. And my mom and I had this hilarious moment where I'm trying to figure out my typewriter and she was trying to figure out her iPad sitting next to me, and we were just laughing at how neither of us understood the other's technology, because she was talking about taking typing in school, and typewriters are not easy, guys. I feel like it's not easy. So let me know, did you take typing in school like on an actual typewriter? Are you someone like me that has picked up using a typewriter for crafting purposes and having to kind of like deal with that learning curve? So let me know, and if you have any tips or tricks, I would be really glad to hear them. So I'm going to use my Studio Calico date right here, date stamp, to make sure that I got my date down. It wasn't a perfect stamp, but that's okay. I don't mind. And then I will just put some adhesive down. But I decide that as I dry it, that I don't want it just hanging up there by itself. I feel like it needs some layering to it. So I'm deciding, do I want to do stamps, moving some things around, kind of playing, seeing how that will work. I end up reaching for the embellishments. I keep them all in this little drawer. I don't have many left from this particular kit, so I'm just seeing what I have, and I do have these little branches right here and one little flower left. So I will layer those beneath my date just so it's not hanging up by itself. I just feel like it needed something to kind of draw it in to the page. I also find a really sweet pink label that I'm going to use over in the bottom left that appears to be off camera right now. And I'm going to stamp on top of it and use the phrase "just breathe," because that is something I had to tell my daughter a lot when we were running our miles together. Like, don't forget, just breathe through. I have my archival ink, which I have found works really well on these Felicity Jane elements on their ephemera pieces, because there is kind of a coating to them. So normally I like to use VersaFine, but it tends to smear. So the archival works really well. I'll run these pieces through my Xyron sticker maker right here to add adhesive to the back, and then secure all of these pieces down onto the page. I'm really someone that thought, I used to think it was silly to have a bunch of different kinds of adhesives, but I'm enjoying all the kinds I have in my room. I have liquid, I have the Xyron sticker maker, I have my big ATG gun, and I still have my little Tombos just for little detail work. And really, it kind of sounds like a guy that spends all their money in Home Depot, but when you have the right options, it makes your project so much easier. So I like all the different choices I have, and the Xyron sticker maker worked perfect in this case, adding plenty of adhesive to get those elements down. Now, one last thing, I feel like there's just a little bit too much white space up at the top, and I want to add in this phrase, yes you can. I love all the inspirational phrases that came in this month's kit. So I pull out that stamp, I'm gonna add it right in there, get my archival ink out since that's what is already out on my desk, and I'll stamp that there, but then it looks just a little bit too stark to me. So I end up pulling that Victorian velvet and kind of doing a shadow behind the original stamp. And that is that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button. I also have a new email newsletter that goes out every couple of weeks talking about organization and upcoming videos. So take a second to sign up for that using the link in my show notes, and all the supplies I used are linked below. I hope you have a fantastic day, and as always, keep it creative.